Hey, Forge fans, it's the Forge Audio Network, home of your reigning, defending, undisputed Canadian Premier League champions, Forge FC. This is the match day preview. Forge, Valor at Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton, Saturday. Kickoff time just after 4 o'clock. Tickets available now at forgefc.ca. If you missed the last match at Tim Hortons Field, wasn't that long ago. It was Tuesday. It was the Canadian Championship quarterfinal. Forge exercising some PK demons by beating Atletico Ottawa in kicks and advancing to the Canadian Championship semifinal. Speaking of some housekeeping here, in case you missed it, Forge knows, well, we knew who the opponent was going to be, right? CF Montreal. We now know when that match will be played. May 24th. You won't have to wait very long. May 24th, 7 p.m. kickoff at Stade Saputo in Montreal, Quebec. Forge with another opportunity against CF Montreal. It'll be the third time the two sides play. Forge looking to punch their ticket to the Canadian Championship final. But a lot of work to do before then, because we have league play to talk about. Valor poses a very difficult challenge this weekend for Forge FC. Valor just 2 points back of Forge, who lead the CPL, does Forge FC. Valor in third, 2 points back. They've only given up 2 goals in 4 matches. Right now, they stand as the best defensive squad in league play in the CPL. And they haven't lost yet. They have 1 win, but 3 draws. A team that is very difficult to play against. And a man who has seen plenty of Valor this season, Alex Gangué-Ruzic, helps break down what is standing in front of Forge in 3 points this weekend. What I'm gathering, because I don't get to watch a lot of Valor, the reputation is intact in the sense that Valor they're really difficult to play against. Maybe just explain that. Why are they so hard to play against?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing this season is they're buying into being a Phil DeSantos team. And, you know, if anyone knows Phil DeSantos or Mark DeSantos, of course, the DeSantos brothers coached together for so long. At their best, when, you know, at their teams in the USL or, you know, even MLS and everywhere else they coach, they're disciplined, they're organized, and they basically, they know what they want to do on and off the ball. And I think finally with Valor, we've seen that, especially off the ball. They're just so relentless. They want to keep 3 in the midfield. They keep their block of 4 extremely disciplined. They press as a team. And on the ball, they know what they want to do. They know their strengths. In this case, they have strong, wide players. They want to stretch the field. And they make sure to use that speed and creativity wherever possible. And I think when you play a team like that, it's tough because, yeah, you know what they're about, but they do it at such a good level, and they're so committed to it that you can't mess up because of that clear identity they have.
And it really does, as confident as Forge is, this is the kind of team that they don't want to play necessarily. If they had a choice, it's teams like this that are so disciplined defensively and can beat you on the counter. And has Valor been a good, because I know that, their goals against are down. I believe they have the least goals against this season with 2 in 4 games only. So they can obviously defend. How is their counter game?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of been a real strength and asset just with some of the names they've brought in. Because I think certainly the defensive improvement is massive, because I think for the first time ever in their history, they're a team that's not relying on Andrew Jean-Baptiste, who hasn't even been healthy yet and will be a huge add when he returns. But that's a credit to their midfield and their defensive line and some of the players they've added there. But on the counter, I mean, Pacific Nyongabire is a winger that Forge fans certainly watching this game will get really familiar with. He's been excellent in every game he's played. He's super quick, but he's also creative. He has the feet to match his speed. He can, step overs, chops. He can, he's got an arsenal that can make a fullback look silly if you take a half step wrong. And on the other side, Kian Williams as well. He's maybe not as rapid as Nyongabire, but he's very creative as well. He's shown some good skill. And from there as well, a huge asset as a former Forge player. In fact, someone that fans will remember fondly from his time is Anthony Novak. He's been a big surprise because, he's always been a great striker. But after that knee injury to come in, I thought maybe it'd take some time to get up to speed. And look, he's not going to be someone that's going to wear you down with speed. He's not going to be someone that wears you down with, anything fancy, but his hold up play, the way he wears out defenders, his physical play, the way he just makes these runs into the box, that combo is just proven to be frustrating, but based on how Nyong'Bjerg goes these direct spaces, how Williams can be so tricky, how the ball goes to Novak, and it's been a fun trio to watch.
Yeah, Anthony Novak, a lot of fans in Hamilton and a lot of friends here as well, so that'll be a nice homecoming for him. Forge, their approach, at least in their last match against Ottawa, is they really use the touch lines and they try to spread Ottawa out as wide as possible. It was effective on that Becker goal, which was early contender for goal of the season. But Dante Campbell, who plays in the midfield for Valor, and you wrote about him and how effective he is defensively, and just talking about wearing players down. Do you expect Forge to kind of continue their approach like they did against Ottawa and maybe keep things wide and even kind of take Campbell out of the game a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's certainly going to be an approach that they'll have to look at, because Valor's midfield has been a huge strength. And, obviously even with the guy like Raf Ohin struggling with injury, Campbell's just been a rock with Diego Gutierrez in front of him. And Campbell, what's fascinating about him is he just gets to the dirty areas, right? Like, he tackles hard and clean. It's nothing malicious about it, but he'll tackle you hard. He's not shy in shutting down space. And if you're Forge, yes, you got the skill, you got the tactics to play in the middle, but if you can stretch the field wide, maybe catch Campbell out of the position, it opens up space in the middle, which is key. But, Forge as well has the wide players to maybe draw Valor's full back out, get him isolated, get wide, and try to beat that defensive line. So, yeah, I'd expect Forge to use the wings a bit.
It's weird to say. Kyle Becker is simultaneously one of the most respected, but also overlooked players at the same time. It's weird. It depends when you talk about him. It's an odd thing. This season, though, this is as good as we've seen Kyle Becker throughout his career. It's not that it's unexpected, but I think it's one of those things where every year it's like he's talked about as if he's this like old guy, and he's still only 32, so he's got years left. But he's been a man on a mission to start the season.
Yeah, and I think that's been huge for Forge because, we talked about it a few weeks ago. The midfield depth is so key, and the fact they were able to even, you almost forgot about Kyle Becker. That's how good the Forge midfield is. But look, Kyle Becker is one of the best players in the league for a reason, and I think it's something where he's reminding people of that with his play. Just there's what I love about his game is just there's things you can't really teach. Just the way he wants to set the tempo, how 2-footed he is, how comfortable he is drifting into these pockets, and that goal he scored is just like magical. There's only a handful of players in this league that can shoot almost basically out of his pocket. It felt like he had no angle, and it was just boom in the back of the net. And I think that's just been huge for Forge because, not to say they relied on him in past years, but he was a huge central part to their efforts, right? He was captain, he was the MVP, and now with their depth, they can have a situation where a guy like Kyle Becker can just kind of go and do his thing, and that's terrifying because a player of that quality, when he has that freedom to go, and he's not going to be the marked man, because look, if you're an opposing team, double teaming Becker just means more space for Passius. It means more space for Campbell, for Borges, and you can go on and on, Chouanier, et cetera, et cetera. So the fact that he's been also afforded a bit more freedom is scary because, as you see against Ottawa, you give him a half second, he can punish you.
Yeah, it's almost I don't know how many times we've spoken this season, but every time we've talked, we've mentioned Mandrakar James. So it's not surprising anymore. But it does need to be noted that in terms of just guys that are fun to watch, and not a lot of defenders can fall under that category, but he really is one of them.
I think he relishes defending, and that's not to say, defenders don't, but I think it's something where defending is hard. Like it's a lot of tough tackles. It's a lot of last ditch. It's a lot of stress, especially you can pick up, these turf burns, these other injuries going into tackles. But what I loved about watching James is just he seems to enjoy it. I think of that game against Pacific as that's his best game this season. Overall, it's just he loved every tackle. Like he'd almost be tackling, he'd get up with a smile. He'd almost be like, yeah, I stopped that guy. Like, damn right I did. And I think that's sometimes the attitude and the swagger you want from your defenders because, yeah, defending's hard. It's something where you can get put under pressure for 90 minutes. bankless. You make one mistake, you're hearing about it. Your forwards can miss chance after chance after chance. And if they score one, they'll get a pass. You don't have that same luxury. And I just love the way he seems to enjoy defending because, look, we know his skills. He's played in Europe. He can ping a ball like many other can't in this league. He's got the skills to defend, but just the way he loves going about it is a huge asset because it just means that, when you're in a fight and when you're in a game, you need to go for it, in which this Valor game could very well be a fight based on what we've seen. At least, he's going to be there with the smile ready to commit to the cause.
Yeah, and it's one thing, relishing defending. And you mentioned like one mistake, and it's very noticeable. But his timing, his decision making, when he does decide to play aggressive, and whether it's to intercept a pass or whether it's to make a strong tackle, it just always seems to be the right decision. You don't see him for an aggressive defender. You expect, okay, at least maybe once or twice a match, he might get caught out of position, but he just always seems to be in the right place. I mean, the soccer IQ, and of course the pedigree's there, so it's not a huge surprise. I do want to talk to you about these the Canadian Championship semifinal, these matchups that are set. Just from a league perspective, I mean, it seems sure, Toronto FC would have been a little bit better, but nevertheless, you have Forge in Montreal, Pacific, and the Whitecaps. Just as a CPL fan, it's exciting that you have these matchups, and we could very well see a CPL club advance to the final here.
Yeah, I think in terms of matchups go from a neutral's perspective, this is pretty perfect just in terms of the storylines we've seen build up over the last few years. It's not just a meeting of CPL versus MLS in both games. I think it's two teams, well, four teams, two matchups with history, right? Like on the West Coast, that's the one I'm familiar with, and just that one means so much. And what I love about that derby is it ranges back 5-10 years, like players, coaches all linked to each other. And they met in 2021, right? Pacific and Vancouver Whitecaps. Those are, teams with that history, the rematch. Oh, Pacific beat Vancouver. It's at home again. It's Ferry Side Derby. Like, I just love everything that's there. And then Forge Montreal is one where, look, this is the third straight year they've met in this competition. One year it was penalties, and, Tristan Henry just, he goes all the way to the goalkeepers. Maybe Tristan Henry just misses that one and ends up hurting him in the end. And, you go last year, it was just one where they went to Montreal, and Montreal was so good last year. Like, okay, this is one where Forge is going to be hungry. They've seen this Montreal team twice. They'll have learned something about them. You add in the connections, the Chouanière brothers on both sides. You add in a lot of Quebec-based players on Forge. A lot of guys on Montreal, from CPL teams. So they'll know some of these guys, remember some of these guys from going up against them. I just love that these are two matchups that have already built such history over the last few years. And I think that's what's huge. It's not just a matchup of a CPL versus MLS team. You're like, cool. It's nice to look back and add all that perspective to it.
Yeah, it's exciting times. And Forge last year called that effort against Montreal Bobby called it at the time the worst football he's ever seen his club play. So that'll be fresh in their mind, and they're back in Montreal. So that'll be great. Alex, once again, thanks so much. And I'm sure we'll talk to you again.
Awesome. Pleasure as always.
So Forge has their work cut out for them, and they're used to playing teams that play a similar style to Valor, right? I mean, listen, it is what it is, right? Is it always the most entertaining soccer? No. But teams are out there to win. And if playing this kind of low block, defensive, tight, physical style of soccer is going to help earn them points, then, you can't blame teams for playing that way. Having said that, 3 keys to the match for Forge FC as they look to secure another 3 points and to maybe separate themselves a little bit on the CPL table. Key number 1 for Forge FC. Open wide. Forge did an incredible job against Atletico Ottawa in stretching Ottawa out. It's what led to Becker's wonderful goal in that last match in the Canadian Championship. Having guys on the touchlines, forcing the defending team to spread out a little bit. Now, if they want to pack the middle, fine. If you want to give some of these skilled players for Forge FC space, give it to them. So what you're doing if you're Forge on the attack is you're forcing the opponent to make a decision. Are they going to come out and defend, or are they going to sit back? Either way, there are options. If they're going to play aggressive and come out to you, you have options. You can move the ball. You can try to take your man 1v1. If not, if they're going to give you the space, you have the guys in the area that can beat you in the air, that can beat you off a dribble. So for Forge, keep doing what you're doing. Keep playing wide. Also, when you play wide, you eliminate Dante Campbell, who has been an absolute beast for Valor this year. The defensive midfielder just takes up so much space in the middle. He's so physical. He's so good at winning tackles. Smart player. And he's a guy that can cause you some trouble in the middle. So, great. Play outside, play wide. You also eliminate that Campbell defender in the center of the field as well. So open wide. Key number 2 for Forge FC. Phys Edge. Short for physical edge. Valor is going to bring their physical brand of football to Tim Hortons Field on Sunday. Forge can match that, and they're going to have to. They're going to have to be prepared for a little more contact, a little more grabbing, right? Don't get too frustrated. Try to play through it. Forge is used to it now. I mean, every club that plays against Forge, presumably, they've all played this way against Forge. It's part of their tactics to try and slow down the attack and to slow down that total football approach from Coach Bobby. So it's going to happen again. You match it, but you stay disciplined. And you still maintain your focus and maintain your game plan throughout. Key number 3 for Forge FC. Discipline defending. Now, discipline could have been attached to Phys Edge, right? But it's its own for a very specific reason. Valor is going to try to beat you on the counter. Now, Forge, we know, something they're very good at, and one thing that they're miles ahead of the other clubs. And last year it was an unbelievable stat. It remains true this year. Forge's success rate in winning the ball back within 6 seconds of losing it. They're so good at winning the ball back almost immediately. The issue with that, part of that is because they like to press. Now, you can get too aggressive on the press and you can get beat on the counter. So as much as you want to win the ball back, as much as big a role as possession plays for Forge FC, and as big of a part of their success it is, you can't get overly aggressive. You still have to play discipline defensively. So, discipline defending, key number 3 for Forge FC. ForgeFC.ca is your place for ticket information. You will want to be there. Saturday afternoon, Tim Hortons Field, Valor FC. It's always competitive when these two sides play, and the way Valor's been playing this year, it's an extra little layer. They would like nothing more than to, on the road, pick up 3 points against Forge FC. So Forge will have their work cut out for them. I'll be there. You can be there too. We'll see you.